The Hangar Z podcast welcomes all three full-time members of the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office Aviation Unit who are the recipients of the Blades of Valor recognition of service, courage, and flight.
The role of leadership and administration is to establish intent, and then they empower their subordinates to go execute that intent. And that's been our experience from day one until now. They establish what their intent is, and then they let Sergeant Dak run with the football and execute the way that he sees fit.
Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and partnered with Vertical Valor Magazine. In this episode, all of us at Vertical Valor Magazine and the Hangar Z podcast congratulate the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office Aviation Unit on receiving the Blades of Valor Award for service, courage, and flight. From a meeting with the sheriff in 2021 to launching a fully operational unit in just 3 years, their journey has been one of vision, dedication, and collaboration. The team carefully selected the right people and the right airframe for the mission, drawing valuable insight from neighboring aviation units, the Airborne Public Safety Association, and the Seminole County Sheriff's Office in Florida. The result, 22 rescues in their very first year of operation. Representing the unit are its three full-time members, Sergeant Jesse Decanay, Pilot Joe Brown, and TFO mechanic Patrick Becker. Together, we discussed the challenges of building a law enforcement aviation program from the ground up, choosing the right airframe and personnel, and establishing a strong safety culture from day one. Thank you to all our followers and our sponsors. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Hangar Z podcast. Thank you to our sponsors, Dallas Avionics, Shotover Systems, and Garmin.
Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like you're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, threw the shotgun, threw something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
It's time for your Heli Life giveaway buzzword. Listen up and remember this word because you'll need it to enter for a chance to win exclusive Heli Life gear. Ready? This episode's buzzword is radar. Visit contest.verticalhelicast.com to enter the buzzword.
Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and partnered with Vertical Valor Magazine. I'm your host, Jack Shanley, and with me today is the creator of the Hangar Z podcast, John Gray. John, how are you?
Jack, wonderful to see you. Good to record with you and our friends here. I haven't met in person, but it's an honor to be here with you guys.
Well, this is kind of a special episode that we're doing, and the reason it's special is a couple things. Number one, we have three guests from the same unit. It's a fairly young unit, and most importantly, they are the recipient of the Blades of Valor Recognition of Service, Courage, and Flight Award for this year, which is being announced about the same time that this is going to come out. And they were nominated and selected and well-deserved. And this is so this will be a really interesting conversation about the creation of a brand new aviation unit, how that evolved, how all the people got involved in it and their jobs. All three of our guests have really interesting backgrounds, how they arrived to this location and to this unit. And so I'm excited about this. This is the first annual Blades of Valor Recognition of Service Awards. And El Dorado County Sheriff's Office in California is one of those units. And so today we have the sergeant of that unit, Sergeant Jesse Decanay. Jesse, welcome.
Thanks. Great to be here.
And Deputy Joe Brown is a pilot.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Good to see you, Joe.
Cheers.
And Deputy Patrick Becker is a TFO and the maintenance officer, or the maintenance person at the unit. Patrick, welcome to the podcast.
How's it going?
Great. That's interesting in its own right there. I mean, we will get to that, Patrick, because that's really unique. And it's because of your background, before police work, before law enforcement. Patrick had another another thing he was doing where he was working on aircraft. So we'll get to that. But this is an aviation unit that is in its very early stages, but they're already making a huge impact. And that, we love that. And John and I have talked about this before. Small units that make big differences are some of our favorite units. Sonoma always comes to mind. Henry 1, Sonoma, amazing. You know, that's a one aircraft unit that does huge things, saving lives. And it's very similar to what you guys are doing in the rescue world, particularly. So the best place to start this conversation is with you, Jesse. You're the unit supervisor, and you were a sergeant at El Dorado County. And one day, Sheriff D'Agostini came into your office back in 21. And what did the sheriff say to you that day? And tell us your reaction to what he said.
Yeah, it was wild. He just came into my office and he started this conversation. How much would it cost to start an aviation unit? And how much would it cost to buy an MD-500? He was excited about that. And I was working special projects at the time, and it just took off from there. It was every time I got one answer, it brought up two more questions that we had to figure out how to get through. And then we just kept going down the road to find out what it would take to start an aviation unit. And to be perfectly honest, I did not think it was going to happen. Right at the beginning, I thought it was too big for our county, and I didn't think we'd ever be here today.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like, it kind of shocked you a little bit.
Yeah.
They really want to do this, but that was in 2021, and you went operational last year in May. Is that accurate?
Operational in May of 24. We got the helicopter in October of 23.
There you go. That's what it was. 23 was the helicopter. You brought it to El Dorado. But so this is the beginning. But since 21, there was a lot of things to do, and we're gonna walk through all that for our listeners, because I told Jesse before we pressed record, there are Jessies out there right now all over the country. Not a ton of them, but there's some out there where a sheriff or a chief are going to come to them and say, hey, we're looking at aviation, and you need to figure out how much it costs, what it would take to do it. And so that's your mission. Well, it's overwhelming. What did you feel overwhelmed, Jesse, in the beginning?
Yeah, it was literally drowning. So I had no background whatsoever in aviation.
Yeah.
It's always something I've been interested in. My dad actually, once I started this, he went back through and found old photos of me on a discovery flight in like elementary school in an R-22, a ride along that I did with CHP Aviation. Cool. So it's always been kind of in the background, but never said anything that I thought I'd get to do for real.
That makes it even more overwhelming to me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not like he's coming in and saying, hey, Jesse, you're a dedicated, passionate aviator. And, and I want you to run with this, creating a unit. That's hard enough. I mean, that's challenging and difficult on its own. But without that experience, terminology, I'll just throw that out there. Terminology. People are going to be talking to you, and you're going to think it's a foreign language for a long time, right? And
Absolutely.
Now you look back on it, I'm sure, and go, oh, now I understand that language. But in 2021, you didn't know.
No.
There was nothing there. So when you said drowning, I think that's a pretty good word for it. You know?
Yeah, and I just have to credit so much to our partner units that are in the area. The Placer County Sheriff's Office, those guys were amazing in helping me figure all this stuff out.
Yeah.
The Sacramento County Sheriff's Office Aviation Unit, SAC PD Aviation Unit, all those guys were incredible resources.
Yeah.
They let me tour, go on flights with them, sit there and talk. For starting a new unit like that, it's absolutely necessary to have partners to work with.
Yeah, we're going to talk about them for sure. Go ahead, John.
I was going to point out a couple things. One, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of the conversations we have when it comes to new units, it's the opposite direction that the request is coming from. It's the officers, the people that have the passion and want to create this program, and it worked its way up the chain of command, and like the last hurdle sometimes is the chief's office. So it's really interesting. This is the first conversation I've had and been a part of where it was the opposite. It's the chief down and coming in and saying, hey, this is a dream of mine. How do we make this happen? I put myself in your shoes, and I'm like, to Jack's theme, it's got to be overwhelming, because I can envision the chief coming in, and if I'm on your shoes and he could ask me for a bucket of rotor wash, and I would think it's a thing, I'd go looking for it.
Where's the bucket? Where is that bucket?
So these, like you said, the terminology is brand new. The concept's overwhelming. There's so much to know. But the one thing you pointed out already, and I know we're going to get to that, is the partnerships that you created with the agencies that surround you. And what I love about our community is just that. Everyone's willing to help out. Everyone's willing to give you whatever resources they have to help you accomplish your goal, which was the successful launch of your program and your unit. So love that early part, but really it was just wanting to key in on the roto wash part.
Yeah.
Did you get sent to look for the rotor wash bucket?
I may have.
I may have too, just so you know.
It came as a top-down project because there were some really specific incidents that happened to our agency. In 2019, one of our deputies, Brian Ishmael, was murdered inside a marijuana grow.
Yeah.
And what actually made the difference was a CHP fixed wing overhead who was able to spot these guys on FLIR in the brush hiding. And a shout out to them, those CHP fixed wing guys, because they did an amazing job. They stayed on station until they were absolute bingo fuel, and our SWAT team was going up and contacting them. Having reviewed that video now, they are literally flying away towards Placerville Airport to refuel, saying, bingo fuel, we're leaving right now, as the Bearcat is coming around the corner to contact these guys. They're pulling away 1.5 miles out, saying, hey, they're 10 yards off your nose right there. It's a pretty dramatic video.
Incredible. That, by the way, that CHP fixed wing guys are top of the line with FLIR. They always have
absolutely.
Been. That's a great example of the value. Even as they're flying away to get fuel, they're still doing their jobs and walking in a SWAT team to take a murderer of a deputy into custody. Man, yeah. Incredible. Jesse, let's start with you. We're going to go Jesse and then Joe and Patrick. Each of you will get the chance to do this, but let's start with you, Jesse. Give us a quick synopsis of your career and what led you into law enforcement, and then where have you worked and what have you been doing?
I actually have a background in photography. I started my own photography business, did that for 5 years, realized I hate owning my own business. It was terrible. Don't want to do it ever again. So in 2007, I made the switch and then enrolled myself in the academy, got picked up halfway through by the City of Davis Police Department. Worked there for a long time, doing motors, FTO, all sorts of stuff. Great time down there. And then in 2014, I left. I came to the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office. Being here has just been an amazing place to work. We care about our employees here. We take good care of it. It's a great place to live and to work. I got the opportunity to be on the SWAT team, FTO, firearms instructor. I was a detective for a while. And then in 2019, I promoted to sergeant, then worked patrol for a little bit. And then in 2020, I was placed in the admin sergeant position, which is our special projects and in will of all the normal administrative stuff that sergeants get to do. And that's when I got handed this project. From there, it was kind of doing both the admin stuff and then this special project. And then it just kept developing. And then we launched the project and picked up the aircraft in late, 23. And then I was able to keep with it and keep going in it. And then the agency decided that they wanted whoever was running this unit to have some aviation knowledge and to be able to understand what's going on with it. And so they had me go get my private commercial license as well.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Where did you do that at, Jesse?
A local flight school up in Auburn.
In Auburn?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. That's what a great opportunity that was.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that one coming, or did that come out of the blue?
No, that one came out of the blue.
That was probably nice.
Yeah.
That's the best voluntold assignment I can ever think of.
Yeah.
Ever happened.
Yeah. Jesse, you're going to flight school.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not. That's great. Well done on all that. So while we're with you talking about this, you've worked a lot of stuff in that time. I mean, motors, bike patrol, SWAT, detective, FTO for 2 different agencies. So which is the best job so far?
Oh, this is absolutely the best job.
Really?
Yeah, it's weird. I come on a helicopter podcast. I say the helicopter job's the best.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Didn't see that one coming either, did you, John?
No.
Huh?
No. I mean, honestly, this is so much fun. I'm an adrenaline junkie by nature. So to be able to get out to do this, we were out yesterday. We got called in on our day off and went from laying in bed doing nothing to all of a sudden we were standing on the skids hoisting a special needs kid out of the mountains who got stuck overnight and was lost. And to be able to do that kind of stuff is absolutely amazing. There's nothing like it.
That was yesterday?
Yeah.
And thus the Blades of Valor recognition. I mean, it's stuff like that. Again, a new unit, and you're out there saving lives. And we're going to talk about the stats in a little bit of what you guys have been doing since you went operational. But really interesting. That's a cool background. What was the major draw to go from Davis to El Dorado? Was it your personal where you could live, the department, a combination, or was there something that jumped out at you there?
To be honest, the sheriff at the time was Sheriff John DeAugustini, and seeing him talk and hearing the way he talked about the Constitution, talking about what his thoughts were on law enforcement generally, it makes you want to come work for him.
Yes.
He's the guy who will stand up in front of the board of supervisors and say, "This is my department. I will run it." Excuse me, it's not a department, it's an office. This is my office. I'm been elected by the people, and we're going to do this as the people elected me to do. We have a vision. This is where we're going.
Oh, wow.
Just that alone is something that draws people to him.
Yeah. It does. I mean, look at Bianco. I mean, he's running for governor in California. That all started by being like your sheriff, by speaking his mind, hearing the truth, the facts, just telling it like it is and saying, hey, we're not going to deal with that nonsense. We're going to enforce the law kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, there are other sheriffs around the country. Grady Judd always comes to mind in Polk County that are like that. So I understand that draw. That's pretty cool.
We talk about leadership and recruitment a lot. And what you just kind of highlighted is the fact that strong leadership drives recruitment, and not only drives recruitment, it helps retention. You talk about, creating an environment where you feel supported, especially in law enforcement. Your leadership's going to support the decisions you make in the field. And those are the kind of things that are really impactful. I think it's interesting that you left for that reason. Has that been a kind of a common theme for folks that you talk to throughout your agency that go there for those reasons?
Yeah, there absolutely is. The way he does law enforcement. So he was actually our previous sheriff. He's since retired. But our current sheriff, Jeff Lykoff, has followed in his footsteps the exact same reason.
That's great.
We are here to do a job, that we are supported by the Constitution, and our job is to follow the Constitution. So, but yes, I mean, even same thing during COVID, when all the nonsense was happening, people were coming to our agency because of our sheriff had made the decision he's going to do what he believes is right, and period, and that's it.
Wow, how refreshing! Yeah, because most didn't do that. They caved. So that's great. And plus, he had a great idea that he planted in your head back in 2021. So he's got that going for him too.
Absolutely.
Really cool. Joe, you have an interesting journey
yes, sir.
to this unit. And I really enjoyed reading your bio. I did. It made me feel good that these things have happened. So share the story with our listeners. Tell us about where you started, how you got into that, and how you ended up here.
Thanks to our sponsor, Garmin. From flight displays with wire aware power line alerting to autopilots with hover assist, Garmin avionics solutions give helicopter pilots the safety of flight tools they need to fly with total confidence. Find out more at garmin.com/helicopters.
Sitting here flying rescue for law enforcement. Yeah, it's been quite the journey. Really, it started in 2009. I was in college down in San Luis Obispo, and I'd always wanted to join the Air Force, always wanted to serve. So decided to join the Air National Guard, enlisted at Vandenberg Air Force Base. So I went off to basic training, went off to technical school, went into the intel career field, and I did that for a number of years full time. And then from there, decided to go off to the police academy, put myself through, and then started looking for departments of where I wanted to go. So my wife's from Wyoming, so we wanted to look for something a little bit slower pace as far as lifestyle. So we looked at El Dorado County. And I came up here and did a ride along with one of our deputies who's now a K-9 officer. And I just asked him, I said, hey, is this where you're going to end your career? Do you want to be here forever? And he said, this is the only department that I'm going to work for my entire career. Okay, perfect. Good enough for me. So I sent in my application. This was back in 2016 is when I originally went through the process with El Dorado SO and fortunately got hired. I was still flying for the Air National Guard. So that's been going on now for 16, 17 years. So at the time, I started FTO with El Dorado SO, but I had also submitted an application to the 129th Rescue Wing, which is out of Moffett Field in Mountain View, California. Submitted out my application and went through the process there and got the phone call from the then squadron commander and said, congrats, you've been selected. You're going off to UPT. You're going to be flying H-60s for the Air National Guard. So I went to my FTO at the time and my shift sergeant, who's now one of our lieutenants, and said, hey, I got this opportunity to go fly for the Air National Guard. And both of them, in a way, said, you better take this. If you don't take this opportunity, then we're going to kick you out the door, essentially. So off I went. 2016, went off to officer training school and then went to Columbus Air Force Base, Mississippi for T6s. From there, went to Fort Rucker, Alabama for the TH-1 Huey. And then to Kirtland Air Force Base for the H-60, the Gulf model, then the PAVOC. So went through that training curriculum and graduated there in late 2018. And then since 18 to really the beginning of this unit, I was kind of back and forth between the sheriff's office and then flying full time for the Air National Guard. So in there, did a deployment to Africa, to East Africa for about 6 months. Had a great time, came back. And then really at the time I was trying to figure out, do I continue with law enforcement and make that a career? Or do I stay military full-time through the Air National Guard, through the AGR program? And then my wife and I were down in Carmel having a vacation, sitting at a nice restaurant there in Pebble, and got a phone call from then Sheriff DiAgostini and said, hey, this is happening. I'd heard whispers before, but he said, this aviation program is happening. I need you to come back. Perfect. Done deal. Went back to my squadron supervisor at the time and said, I'm going back to the department. So came back. Spent about 3 years, about 2 years back on patrol as Sergeant Dak was working the logistics to get this thing off the ground. And I got brought into the fold a little bit, really about aircraft selection. And like Sergeant Dak said, that we were originally looking at an ND series. My recommendation at the time was, hey, let's not look at iron. Let's talk about mission set. And then from there, let the mission set define what iron that you want. So the sheriff directed that it had to do Bambi bucket operations, had to do patrol, and it had to do hoisting for search and rescue. It's like, okay, well, the only single engine helicopter really that can do that 3 mission set is the A-Star, the H-125. So that's what geared us towards looking for the H-125. And I'm sure Sergeant Dak will talk a little bit as how the relationship with Seminole began. So did a couple trips out to Florida while being on patrol. And then, as Sergeant Dak mentioned, when this thing became to fruition in 2023, I was brought over full time to the unit. Brought it home in October of 23, and then went on a quick vacation, we'll call it, to the Middle East for my second deployment for about 4 or 5 months or so, which is what kind of set our 10/8 date to the middle of 24 was my quick trip overseas.
Gotcha.
And here we are, a year and a half later. Doing this full time.
Wow.
So still flying for the Air National Guard, and then of course flying here with these two gentlemen.
Oh. That's a great story. That's a great story.
It's been a road. It's been a trip.
No doubt.
Yeah.
What? So, how close were you to going to the Guard full time? I mean, were you really set on that?
I was very close. Not to bore you with the details, but there's a program out here through the Guard called State Active Duty, SAD. It's similar to AGR, but it's through the state of California. And I had a full-time position at state headquarters down in Sacramento, and it is a great career option. Wearing the same flight suit on the military side at state, and then flying for the 129th. So the two lifestyles were very synonymous with each other. They worked well with each other. So it was a great option for myself, for my career in the military, for my family, stable career. Yeah. And I could ride that SAD AGR position throughout my retirement. Yeah. And then got that one phone call sitting in Carmel, and weird how life works sometimes. My wife and I were literally talking about which career path would be best for me to continue to pursue. Right. And I told myself that butted up right to the end of my Africa deployment. So I remember 2 nights before coming back from Africa, I was sitting up on one of the HESCOs watching the sunset. Like, I need to make a decision about my career. And then fast forward 2 weeks later in Carmel, literally at the table talking about it with my wife. And then the sheriff, I saw him on my phone calling, and it was very nice that in a 15-second conversation, it defined what my career would be. So I was very close to making the military my full-time career, and then got that phone call, and it changed the course of life.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Really cool story.
Yeah.
And I heard you right. You're still in the Guard?
Still flying for the Air Guard. You have to 129th Rescue Squadron out of Moffett.
So that means you're still in the Pavehawk? Still in the Pavehawk.
Nice. My heart will always be with the Gulf model, but we just switched to the H-60 Whiskey, which is a pretty sweet aircraft in of itself, but still flying actively the Pavehawk there for the 129.
Nice. Oh, that's great. And a lot of what you do in that position relates to what you're doing at El Dorado, correct?
Oh, very much so. Obviously, 2-din aircraft. Max gross weight of the Whiskey now is 22,700. Max gross weight of our A-Star is 5,200. Yeah. But very much so. The TTPs, the tactics, techniques, and procedures, and we'll get onto it with Becker here, I'm sure, soon. My entire Air Force knowledge and career has been brought to this, and then merged with the Marine Corps from Becker. So it's been this meshing of the two branches combined with what Sergeant Dak brings with leadership and logistics, and we've created this program. So,
wow, El Dorado won the lottery here by having you to be able to be their first pilot. Now Jesse's a pilot too, but I mean, where they look to you, and based on the missions, you couldn't have picked somebody in a better job that of what you were doing in the Pavehawk. A lot of rescue and medical and all that stuff. Very cool. And one thing that really stood out that I love, and I want you to touch on it again, is about talking about the missions first as opposed to the airframe. People get that wrong. I can think of agencies recently that have done that backwards, and I hope they don't find out the hard way. Talk about that. Talk about you inserting that a little bit more, and why that was so important to you to bring that up to them.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, depends on the mission set. Will define what helicopter that you have. If you're strictly doing patrol operations, an MD 500 or 530 is fantastic.
Yep,
it does the job. If that's the mission set that you require, simply doing patrol operations and support for the men and women on the ground, fantastic asset, fantastic bird for that mission set. Am I going to take an MD 500 or 530 up to, like Sergeant Dak mentioned yesterday's search and rescue? It was at 9,300 MSL on a rather warm day. So your temperature, dew point, your pressure altitude, density altitude, it all comes into play when you're flying that single engine helicopter up at altitude. So define your mission set, and then from there, identify which aircraft can operate in that environment in which you require. So for us, being in the Sierras, our lowest altitude down towards Sacramento, Folsom area is about 1,500. And then our highest peaks are 10,000 or so. Yep. Yeah. So choosing a helicopter that's got that power performance, as we always brief before we go fly, is your power available versus power required. Making sure you have that delta in weight to operate at those altitudes. The A-Star speaks very much in Army hats. model as far as this is what you do weigh, this is what you can weigh to maintain an out-of-ground effect hover at this altitude. And the first limit indicator in the heads down display does a great job in H125 of giving you that delta. So like for yesterday's hoist rescue, when we ran the power numbers, I said, okay, for an out-of-ground effect hover, we have about a 250, 275 pound delta to pick up. So I know that with our current weight, with our 3 on board, myself, Dax, and then our rescue tech, we have that delta to bring up this 150 pound individual. So that is what drove the conversation with the sheriff and then the admin is let's talk iron iron second. Let's talk about what you want for the people of El Dorado County specifically, and then we'll go from there. And again, if you're down at sea level in Florida or other locations, if you're just down in the Sac Valley, for example, or up on the Pacific coast, if you're just at sea level, you may not need this type of engine that can operate at such high altitude, because I don't want people to jump into an aircraft that's going to handcuff them as far as power margins. That will make or break your program if you jump into something that's power limited for what you're trying to do. Because we talked about that max gross weight, 5225, which is on the smaller side, but we're able to run our weight and balance in our toll to make it work for the Sierras, unless you've got a budget that can go dual engine. But yeah. A lot of agencies, if their budget is smaller and they can only afford the operating cost of a single engine, for us, the H125 is perfect.
That is so valuable, that information you just talked about to people that are thinking about getting into the game, mm-hmm. and just to leadership too. Listen to the subject mm-hmm. matter experts. Mm-hmm. Don't just say, "Oh, we're going to get this. Here you go." It's like, well,
yeah, absolutely.
That may work some places, but it might not work in the Sierras, and mm-hmm. A good chunk of our jurisdictions
in
at
Sierras.
altitude.
Yeah.
So it seems common sense.
You touched on admin. For us personally, our admin has been fantastic. Like you said, listen to the subject matter experts. The role of leadership and administration is to establish intent, and then they empower the subordinates to go execute that intent. And that's been our experience from day one until now. They establish what their intent is, and then they let Sergeant Dak roll the football and execute the way that he sees fit. Wow. That's a huge way of success that we've experienced. And I think that's why like you said, we'll get to stats later, but I think that's why we've been able to grow so much in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
I love the way you just described leadership. It was a very succinct, economical way to drive the point home. That's the goal of leadership. This is what they should do. Mm-hmm. It's so succinct it makes sense, and it seems like common sense, right? But we know that common sense, especially in government operations, a lot of times doesn't exist. So it's refreshing to hear you talk about that as it pertains to your agency. That's really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Patrick, it's your turn. Last but not least, the man in the unit who wears multiple hats. I mean, this is pretty cool. Your story really grabbed me. I mean, where I went, did I read, to the point where I looked back and read it again because I thought, did I read that right? And when our listeners are going to find out here what I mean here, as Patrick tells us his journey to El Dorado Sheriff, Tactical Flight Officer, Rescue Tech, maintenance person, So Patrick, take it away. Tell us your background, how you got into all this, and all the details.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I was getting out in the Marine Corps in 2016. My wife basically asked me, "What do you want to do with your life?" I told her 3 things as options. I told her possibly be a teacher, like math, like teaching people with that. So I was like, that's an option. The other one was opening up a gun store. I'm an avid Second Amendment supporter, very big gun enthusiast. So, I was like, hey, I'd like to open up a gun store. And then I realized we were moving to California. And so that dream died. And then the last option was law enforcement, just because of my upbringing. I have a lot of family in law enforcement, a lot of family who have been affected positively by law enforcement. So I, leaned towards that. After I got out in the Marine Corps in 2016, spent a couple of years going to school on the GI Bill, and then also stay-at-home dad. Besides this job, probably one of the best times of my life, just being able to spend that time with my kid and have a lot more time being at home after getting back and out of that deployment and training rotation. In about 2018, I was like, school's about to end soon. I started looking for work. So I started putting around, I was in Sacramento. I started looking at Sac County, Sac PD, CHP, and talking to them. A lot of my family is actually CHP. So that was kind of the first draw was to there, but I didn't want to be a highway cop. Nothing against it, just wasn't my style. I wanted to deal more directly with people. And then I heard about Dorado. I didn't know if I wanted to put myself through an academy at the time. So, I talked to them and they said, hey, if you start in the jail, we promote from within and we put people from correctional officer to deputy. So, I was like, hey, just to get a feel for it, see how I like it. I didn't think the jail was a bad start. Definitely learned a lot there. So
Yes.
Thanks to our sponsor, Dallas Avionics, who provides innovative products to law enforcement, the Department of Defense, Homeland Security, military, air medical, search and rescue, and special missions operations. Dallas Avionics distributes OEM equipment, including communications equipment, digital audio systems, PA systems, flight tracking, and other mission-critical devices. Visit DallasAvionics.com for more details.
2019 started at the jail, went through COVID, went through our normal rotation up to South Lake Tahoe, did well with that, was away from home a lot, but the wife was used to that with deployments, came back down. And then in 2021, they put out the next promotional opportunity for deputy sheriff. I put in for that, interviewed with actually a lot of close friends who also were selected. And we were very fortunate to get picked up for the 2021 class of Sac County Sheriff Academy. From there, passed the academy, really relied on my military experience and just life experience at that point. I was 31. So, waiting on that experience to get me through the academy, had a good time with that. Got to FTO with Dorado, and it was funny. We're sitting in class, and it's all me and 3 other guys who were in my academy class. And then in walks this slick-haired guy who's like, oh, my name's Joe Brown. He's like, I'm going through FTO again. And we're like, oh, okay, that's cool. He's like, yeah, just there's rumblings about them getting a helicopter. And so he starts filling me on the background on that. And then we're all going through training, and Joe's going out and testing different aircraft. We're all trainees. And I remember him telling me, he's like, yeah, they're getting a helicopter. And I was like, hey, tell him I used to be a crew chief in the Marine Corps. And he was like, you got the ear to the sheriff, let him know. And actually one day I was walking through the office, and our sheriff is very, at the time, Sheriff D'Agostini is very personable. He knows you, he remembers you, which I wasn't used to with upper leadership at that level. And one day he stops me and he's like, hey, Joe was telling me you used to be a crew chief on Huey's. And I was like, yeah. He's like, what were you doing with that? I was like, I was mechanic. I was also on the aircraft, door gunner. And then also we did search and rescue, hoist operations, and then fast rope, troop insert, whatever you needed. And then also Bambi bucket. And he's like, oh, all right, keep that in mind. And so we pushed forward, and, our agency, we're a smaller agency. So we don't have many guys who have aviation experience. So I think that really helped out when the opportunity came available in about beginning of 23, I want to say, is when they put out, hey, we're promotional opportunity or collateral duty assignment for TFO. And so I put in for it. It was me and 3 other guys. I think the thing that stood out for me was just my background as a crew chief on Huey's. Was fortunately selected. And then during the interview, I told them, I was like, hey, I'm gonna be honest, I don't have any desire to fly as a pilot, which a lot of people were surprised by. But I was like, if you guys want, I'm willing to go take the test and get my A&P license or A&P certification. And, it was like a lot of talking back and forth about, what that would entail, things like that. And then the beginning of 2024, I went to a crash course down in SoCal to just get reacquainted with maintenance. At that point, I'd been out of maintenance for 8 years. From there, tested out, did my writtens, did pretty well, and then went through the oral and practical and passed. So since about May of last year, had my AMP and been working on the helicopter since then.
Wow. Really cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty unique. But that definitely, between the crew chiefing in the Marine Corps and the A&P, that had to just, I mean, if I'm sitting on that oral board, we go, oh, that's all I have to hear. Yeah, congratulations. Welcome to the unit. I mean, it's like, that's fantastic. Perfect for what you were about to do. So a couple things, Patrick. You started your story when I got out of the Marine Corps, and then you went back and touched on it. But tell us a little bit more about the Marine Corps. Tell us more about that crew chief job, and why you went that route, and explain, because not everybody understands this. Explain that a crew chief in the Marine Corps on a Huey is a lot more than just sitting in the back. You're doing multiple jobs just like you are now. So talk about that Marine Corps time, and specifically about that crew chief job and what it is in the Marine Corps.
Gotcha. So what led me into that position in the Marine Corps, in 2007, graduated high school. Sorry to make you feel old, Sarge. And I wanted to be a pilot at that time. I had taken the ASVAB. It gave you a couple options on what you could do or what they think you would be great at or whatever they want to consider it. And one of the options was pilot. So I ended up going to Embry-Riddle for about a year in 2007 to 2008. At the time, still isn't cheap. So finances kind of pushed me towards going a different route. Came back home from Arizona and then enlisted in the Marine Corps at 21. When I went to the recruiter's office, he was like, hey, based on your ASVAB, you did pretty well. We recommend this. And it was crew chief was the position. At that time, I didn't have a platform assigned. I went to boot camp. From there, went to Florida for Naval Aircrew Candidate School. From there, that's when they assigned you what platform you're going to be on. The option being at the time was Hueys and Cobras, 53s, 46s were still an option, and C-130s. Originally, my two choices were Hueys and Cobras or the C-130s, just because you get to travel.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to get my first choice of Hueys. From there, ended up in the aircrew school or crew chief school in Southern California at Pendleton. I spent a little bit of time there. First, actually, correction on that. We actually first did the maintenance school. Through that, I was actually one of the first classes for the upgrade model. We were going from the November and Whiskey to the Yankee and Zulu models of the Huey and Cobra. From there, ended up in Hawaii at HMLA 367.
Oh, geez, that's tough. I'm sorry.
Yeah, terrible. I actually was originally had orders for California, and they changed it up on me, and I was just like, well, I'm from California. I'd like to stay in California. And, it actually all worked out, obviously.
Yeah.
Ended up in Cape Bay. Really enjoyed my time out there. Met my wife, built a family out there. And then we had 2 deployments. We did a training often. My wife still brings it up. I was gone at least a week a month for training on the Big Island. And then between that and deployments, went to Australia for, I forget what they call it now, but the Australia training. Spent a lot of time at 29 Palms, spent a lot of time in Yuma. So I was all over the place. And while I was in, I obtained my instructor quals on turf, terrain flight, and then triple AGI as an aerial gun instructor. So I was teaching guys before I got out. And then one of the big things I spent a lot of time doing, we fly and we test as crew chiefs. And then we also do maintenance, but testing was a big part of the time I spent in, making sure track and balance was good. The Huey Yankee model with the upgraded tail rotor blades, when it first got to Hawaii, was having a big issue with track and balance. for the tail because of water saturation. So we spent a lot of time doing that, and which got me a lot more flight hours too, which was a good thing. So, but yeah, spent a lot of good time there. My knowledge from the Marine Corps definitely translated well into this job. We went from flying, as you mentioned before, as crew chief, I was in the back as a door gunner, but also as an observer, and then also assisting the pilots, make sure that, we were operating efficiently and effectively, doing a lot with that. And then also, as that observer, spotting them when we were doing troop inserts or the Bambi bucket, and then running the hoists as well. So that obviously translates perfectly over to what we're doing now. We do Bambi bucket, we do hoist operations, and then I'm also just assisting Joe as much as I can, and Dak, and I fly with Dak. So it's just one of those things where, I didn't think I would end up back in aviation. I have a lot of friends who, when they got out, was like, I immediately went and got my AMP. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to be back on aircraft, so I'm good. And like I said, Joe came in, first time I met him, he's like, yeah, they're getting a helicopter. And I'm like, hey, that's where I want to be. So made those moves.
That's cool.
Now, does the Marine Corps, are there maintenance people and crew chiefs where the crew chief does some of the maintenance or all the maintenance? How does that work?
In the Marine Corps, there was your maintenance, your flight line mechanics, and then also your crew chiefs, and then your homegrown crew chief as well. So you would take a mechanic, and once he displayed aptitude, he would be turned into a crew chief, but you only flew with your crew chief. So we did assist on maintenance. Obviously, we're flying a lot more. When I got out, we had 21 aircraft. So we were flying multiple missions a day, and this is just training. Obviously, when we deployed, it was a lot more. So, we spend a lot of our time flying, but we do maintenance as well. Every position or job that could be done on a Huey and Cobra, I did. It was just a matter of, did I do it as often as everybody else? No, because I was flying.
Right.
But yeah.
But you had the ability to do it.
Yes.
The knowledge and the experience, the ability to do major things with maintenance. It's just that the crew chief duties took you away from some of it. Right?
Yes.
Is that a good way to put it?
Yes. My primary mission was a crew chief. So to fly.
Did you do the pre-flights?
Yes. So we did pre-flights and assisted our pilots with their walk around.
Nice. I'm curious about one more thing. So now you're a maintenance, helicopter maintenance person in the Marine Corps, or the Army, or the Air Force, and now you get out to the civilian world. It doesn't automatically transfer. Is that a good way to put it? I mean, you still have to go and take tests, and like you mentioned, you went to SoCal. Is that the norm, that you have to go to get your AMP in the civilian world, that you have to take more tests or more schooling, or how did that work?
Yes. So the way that the FAA requirements are set up is it's hands-on experience or a school. And through my time in the Marine Corps, I got the hands-on experience. There is a time requirement. I don't want to comment on what it is because I'm not 100% sure.
I understand
what it is. So, but I met that requirement through my time in. From there, I was able to take the tests. I could take the tests any day after I met with the FAA person who verified my record. From there, any day I could have taken the test, but I told Sarge I got to go get some type of schooling real quick, and I'd heard about the crash courses before. Super beneficial. Really got my mind back into that way of thinking after being gone for 8 years.
That's a long time. I mean, 8 years, you forget a lot of little things that were they were at the tip of your tongue. You understood it. I'm imagining that crash course, taking that test without doing that probably would have been scary.
For sure. It definitely got me in the right state of mind. They focus on the test prep for the written and then the practical as well. So that practical experience is nice, getting back in just, working with some sheet metal, working with safety wire again, haven't safety wired anything in so long. And, it was good to get that hands-on experience, really beneficial for myself, and really appreciate that I was able to do that Obviously, the sheriff's office benefits from me doing that, but
Sure
I do
they
appreciate them seeing the value and sending me to that.
That's great. How long was that crash course and where was it?
It was 20 days.
20 days. Okay.
There's different options I've seen. Actually, I believe it was 2 weeks. Sorry, 2 weeks for this one. The one I did was 2 weeks. And it was down. I have the memory of.
Oh, that's all right.
The very, very bad memory. So, but yeah, so it's down in SoCal. I forgot which place it was. It was Avtech down in SoCal.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. Last thing I have for you. Did you prefer 29 Palms or Hawaii? I'm just curious.
I mean,
just
that's a hard one. 29 Palms, right outside base, you had some really good California burritos. But I would say day to day would definitely be Hawaii.
Okay. Well, John's favorite Del Taco's out near 29 Palms.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yep.
In Barstow. Yeah.
And, yeah, I don't know about.
He loves that place.
I do.
John, anything on your mind for these guys before we kick into the next topic here?
There's a lot, but I feel like we're gonna jump into it as we go. Leadership, the theme of leadership keeps coming up, and I think it's important to focus on that. But yeah, let's continue. And I know these themes are gonna keep coming up.
Oh, they will. I mean, what I've learned already is that we have 3 leaders here. Jesse, you're the sergeant with stripes, but you got 3 leaders here. And I know you know that. I am positive you know that. And that's why they were selected. You're very fortunate. I can tell that already. Great backgrounds, all 3 of you. Jesse, it would take about a week of podcasting to cover this topic that we're going to ask you about, but I'm going to ask you to just kind of maybe prioritize the steps. From when the sheriff came in and told you that, what were your priorities? And maybe that's the best way to approach this, because it would be easy to say, okay, you started the unit. How did you do that, Jesse? And 5 days from now, we'd get done with that. So maybe tell us what the priorities were, and maybe look back on it and say, maybe I should have done this differently. Because again, there are Jessies out there right now that are going to get assigned this project, and this will be very helpful for them.
Thank you to our sponsor, Shotover. Shotover Systems is the leading developer and manufacturer of high-performance gyro-stabilized cameras with advanced real-time AR mapping and mission management, all backed by unparalleled custom training and support. Now offering the M2 multi-sensor system, sole 6-axis EO/IR platform with 4K Ultra HD color and infrared technology. Ideal for law enforcement and defense. Offered with real-time AR overlays to quickly identify streets, weather, and traffic. Automated license plate recognition, 24 megapixel digital photographs, and automated steering and tracking.
So, I mean, Joe already spoke to the first one. The first one is just defining the mission set. Yeah. What are we here to do? And so that actually was not a short conversation at all with our administration to figure out what's the purpose of this thing. So what we defined it early was the purpose is to support patrol operations, to give our guys on the ground more information to keep them safe. Second is search and rescue. This ship is going to get a lot of work out in the Sierras, in all of our great places that people come from all around the world to recreate. We've got the American River, which is world-class whitewater rafting. We got the Rubicon Trail, which is world-class off-roading, and we've got Lake Tahoe and Desolation Wilderness, which are people come from across the world to come play here. So it's going to get a workout for search and rescue. And then the last one is emergency firefighting, because we've had some pretty spectacularly large wildfires in our area.
You sure have.
More than half of our county is just national forest, and it can be pretty scary sometimes for the people who live here. So
no doubt.
We're able to define those are our 3 mission sets. And then, like Joe said, what is the ship that we're going to need, and what is the crew component that we're going to need to do it? So once our administration was able to define our priorities, then it was, okay, well, how do we implement it? And from there, it was just launching into information gathering. So we relied really heavy on APSA, the Airborne Public Safety Association. I think from that point forward in when it was starting in 21, I went to every APSA conference that was there. We just started taking classes, trying to figure out what it is. Joe and I spent a lot of time in my office talking about this kind of stuff. We went to other units all over the place in our region. And then once we made friends with Seminole County, we made multiple trips out there and just started collecting as much information as we could. How are we going to pull this off? And then from there, it was just, okay, now we're going to craft as much of the policy as we can to how are we going to do this safely and effectively at the same time, and also in a financially responsible way for the citizens of our county.
Yeah. And it took years. This is
years.
About 3 years. I mean, total. This is not a quick process. And if it is, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah. And to be perfectly honest, 3 years, there were things we missed. There was stuff that to have a complete package ready to go turnkey, it could have easily taken longer. I met one lieutenant through APSA who was doing the exact same thing that I was, but when I was at the 3-year mark and we were purchasing our helicopter, he was at the 5-year mark and hadn't purchased a helicopter yet.
Yeah.
So it is an absolute mountain. I highly recommend the APSA crew. All of the source documents that they're able to provide were absolutely clutch for getting this thing done.
And with that said, because John talks about this constantly, about the networking. Yeah, getting, APSA being involved and helping you get paperwork and manuals and all that. But it was networking that was really key here from an Airbus rep that introduced you to Lieutenant Steve Ferris from Seminole County.
Yeah.
In Reno? Was it at APSCON in Reno?
Reno APSA.
Tell us how important was meeting Steve Ferris, who has been on the podcast. I mean, you can go back to episodes 204, 205. Great conversation with Steve. Tell us about how important it was meeting Steve Ferris for this all to happen.
Yeah. So we had our budget. We knew what the funds that we had available and that the county was willing to put up to purchase an aircraft. It was a smaller number that we wanted. We weren't sure how we were going to pull it off. So we started walking around APSA. At that point, we'd identified that the A-Star was our primary aircraft that we wanted. And so we were at the Airbus booth talking with our rep, saying, hey, what do you guys have used? What can we get with this? And he's basically said, well, there's a 3-year backlog on new 125s. The secondary market for them is incredibly hot right now. All of our ships are spoken for. We don't have anything. But I know a guy who had one. And he said, he's wandering around here somewhere. When he comes by, we'll grab him for you. Yeah. And so eventually he wandered over and they grabbed Steve's ear, Lieutenant Ferris's ear, and introduced us. And from there, we were off to the races. It was a lot of talking, a lot of networking, a lot of having these conversations to figure out what we're doing. And even that process was really an interesting one. Seminole County is incredibly fortunate where they have a program where they replace their aircraft every 10 years. It's just set in stone so that they can keep their maintenance costs down. So they had previously sold an aircraft to an agency in Alabama. And our plan was to purchase the now 20-year-old aircraft from Alabama while Seminole purchased a new aircraft and sold their 10-year-old to Alabama. So everything was supposed to go down the line. We were supposed to get a good deal on it. Something happened with that agency in Alabama. They weren't able to purchase it. And then so we were able to come in behind and actually make that purchase. And Lieutenant Ferris was incredibly helpful. He, just like everybody else, loves to see new units get started. And we're able to negotiate a price that worked for our budget and that came with all of the mission equipment on board.
Wow.
So it came with the hoist, the FLIR, the SX-16, the cargo basket, everything. It was turnkey at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, because their missions are the same list as yours. They're just not at 10,000 feet.
Yep.
I mean, the hoist is there, the equipment's there. They support law enforcement. They fight fires. They do all this stuff. And Lieutenant Ferris is just, he's very unique. And I'm going to take a wild guess that, your relationship with him went way beyond purchasing an aircraft as far as information that your unit is now using on daily operations, right?
100%. He helped craft our policy. We still call him and his crew, Chance Paddock, John Valentino, their whole crew, they're on speed dial on our phone, and we're constantly calling them up. On the maintenance side, it's, hey, Chance, we've got this thing we've never seen before. Is this normal? Joe, as our chief pilot, he's constantly calling John about individual training aspects. I'm constantly getting in contact with Steve, saying, hey, how do you guys handle this particular policy and this particular leadership scenario?
Yeah. A lot of our conversation, John, as you recall, was about policies and procedures that I remember us going, wow, over and over with Steve, because they came up with different twists on things. I'm sure you recall some of that. That was great conversation.
Yeah. And a lot I remember from him too was like some of the other conversations we had where they've got this product as a result of the work they've put in prior to that, that they've produced these results through their program, which has allowed them to go out and get this end product. And, I think of all the stars that have to align for your agency to get to where you are today. You define the aircraft and you define the mission set. So not only do you do that, but you find an aircraft that has the exact things you need. And then, oh, hey, by the way, we've got a guy that works for agency that has this skill set that has flown these mission sets. Not only has he flown them, but he's flown them in this area. It has this experience and knowledge that a lot of agencies don't have. A lot of agencies, there's a progression. You start with patrol and you kind of work these mission sets in as you develop as a unit and as a program. Well, you guys have the fortunate ability to do all that from the beginning. That is very, very unique.
It is
really, really cool that you guys were able to work all that in, and just a neat way to weave all that in together. And you, at the end of the day, it's networking, like you said, that kind of created these opportunities. So just really cool how that all weaved together.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mean, I really think that we can punch above our weight for the age of our unit. But like you guys said before, is that it all comes down to leadership. From a non-aviator coming into this and having two guys as my full-time guys that I'm supposed to lead that have so much experience and so much background in aviation of this, it's honestly really intimidating. But these guys have been able to lead from the back and to have such a humble attitude about it, where we can get this done. And it's just been an absolute pleasure to work with these guys. Yeah. And there's been plenty of times where we come in and having an Air Force guy, having a Marine, and then having a civil aviator all come through and try to mesh those worlds together has not always been easy. But I think that because of that, it's made us a better unit, and everybody's able to bring their perspectives to it. And it's made us a lot better because of it.
Yeah. Well, it ain't Patrick and Joe's first rodeo. So, it's like you're very fortunate
absolutely
to have them. I mean, if I was this unit sergeant, I'd be thanking somebody every day that these two guys appeared on your radar in your department for what you were assigned. With that in mind, at what point during that 3 years were Patrick and Joe identified as people that were key and came into the team to help you finish the project?
So Joe was always, we ran a selection for it for HR purposes, but he was the only pilot that we had. We don't have it.
I love how you put that.
Surprisingly, we don't have any other rotorcraft pilot who have experience picking people up from the middle of the Pacific Ocean on hoists. I don't know why.
There weren't 5 or 6 guys on El Dorado that fit that criteria? What the heck?
And then what we do, so he'd already been identified. We knew we were going to be working together. Joe and I worked pretty closely for a decent amount of time before. And then for our tactical flight officer, we had a selection because we had at least one other guy who had experience, albeit further back, as a crew chief. We had a couple of other guys who had just general aviation knowledge and wanted to get in on the program. So after we ran them through a series of tests, had a normal selection that we did, and Patrick came out on top. We're fortunate though that those guys too, we brought on rescue techs, who are the guys going down the line to actually make victim contact. a lot of those guys who applied, we were able to bring them in as our rescue techs. So they're still able to be involved in the program to a certain
that's
extent.
cool. And that's, not to jump ahead here, but that'll be good for the future too.
Yeah.
Without predicting, we don't want to jinx it.
That's right. So Joe and Patrick were brought in. I only got them full time for the unit in, I think it was the end of the summer before we picked up in October.
Okay.
So not as long as I would have liked to have them, but just like every other small agency that's out there, we have staffing problems. So is trying to convince a patrol lieutenant with an understaffed patrol team to release these guys to me. And the agency doesn't understand the aviation, how much work and how much stuff goes into this.
Yes.
So even for that portion of it, it was a lot of time trying to educate them before I made those requests.
Did all three of you go back to Seminole County to pick it up?
We did.
That's nice.
We went down there. We had a week of a couple of days of training with them where they walked us through, showed us where all the buttons were, how everything worked. And then Joe and I and Lieutenant Ferris were able to do the ferry flight back from Seminole County, across the southern U.S., and then up to El Dorado County.
Very cool. What a cool, the fact that you got to do some training with them. Boy, oh boy, when you said that just now, I didn't see that one coming. And that is so valuable. I mean, okay, and this hoist here, here's how it works. This radio package, this flare, everything's unique. The fact that you got to do that with the people that have been using it professionally, that's really I'm sure that value comes through every time you go out.
I'm going to probably steal a question from you here, Jack, but
yeah.
Sarge, when you think through the process you went through and as you're planning this thing out, if you were to do this again, or if there's someone in your shoes from the very beginning, what's one thing you wish you would have done different, or thing that you wish you had known as you got into this?
The thing that I wish I would have known is that the aviation world is so much bigger and it's so different from any other law enforcement job that's out there. There's overlap in the mission, but to actually learn what you need to know to start an aviation unit there's almost no crossover to being in law enforcement. In California, we have the police officer standards post. Everything that in law enforcement is governed by post. You have to do this to do a training. You have to do this to do drive and do the pit maneuver. But, in the aviation world, when it is government owned, there's nothing like that that's out there. There's nobody out there who can tell you, you need to do step A, then step B, then step C to do all this kind of stuff. So the knowledge gap is ginormous.
Yeah.
And so what I would say to somebody in that position is you can't work another job and do this. You need to be fully invested. It might take you 2 years, but it might take you 5 years, but don't have another job. You need to convince your administration that they need to take you completely off of whatever your assignment is and just put you in that aviation. You're there to develop the programs. You're there to gain the knowledge. You have to be invested. There are no half measures when it comes to aviation.
Yeah. Love that. I feel like that same concept applies. A lot of agencies, they want to have what they'd consider a part-time TFO program. We have full-time pilots, but we'll have these part-time TFOs come up every once in a while when they can. And that's great. Like that's what you can do. That's what you can do. But if you want to be a professional program, I think you need to set the time aside and say, hey, we believe in this mission so much so that we're going to dedicate this person 100% of the time to this mission set, because there's so much specialized knowledge that's required. For the TFO and the pilot, like you said, you've got to know both the FARs and the post side of things. You're essentially a master of two different crafts, and you can't know half of each side. You've got to know each side fully. So yeah. I love that you brought that up. I think that's critical.
And not only that, but to have the backing of your upper administration so that they understand that this is completely different. There's nothing like that.
Steve Ferris built his program because he produced results. If you're going to produce results, you have to have a successful program, one that can actually go out there and execute. It's really hard to execute if you don't dedicate the time and resources to developing that skill set that's required to do these things.
And it's high risk if you don't dedicate, if you don't have the right people, the right training, the right equipment. Boy, this is high risk stuff. You guys have mitigated that from day one by having experience coming into it. I mean, there are units that do not do that. And like John said, part-time TFO, I can't imagine doing that job if I was a part-timer. It's hard. It's the hardest job in law enforcement. Said that for years, and I mean it. It's hard to do right. Now, if you want it to do half-assed, maybe, but then and that's just the law enforcement side of the TFO job. I'm not even talking about hoisting and the technical side. That's a whole other ball game that is very specialized. I never had to deal with any of that. I know people and obviously in the industry, and I just admire the fact that they have so many skills at so many things. I just had to concentrate on catching bad guys. That's hard enough, you know? Yeah. Now you add to it that I'm going to go from a pursuit to a whitewater rescue. And when we get done with that, we're going to 10,000 feet and picking up a hiker. That's critical condition, all in the same shift. That is not unrealistic. It's probably happened already to you. So really interesting. I'm going to go around the horn here. John, did you have something? It looked like.
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry to jump in here, but you brought up the fact that you guys, to educate the department on the things that you're capable of doing. I wanted to touch on that for a little bit because it touches on this theme of internal marketing that I like to talk about. What I mean by internal marketing is just that, letting your folks, whether it's in administration or patrol or anywhere else, know these are our capabilities, this is what we can do as a way of drumming up business, but also educating the public. You talked about having a social media program to educate the public as to what you offer the citizens, the visitors, and the workers of the county. But talk about how you went out and educated the department, admin, and then also the general public as to the benefits of your program.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers.
Thank you to our sponsor, Shotover. Shotover Systems is the leading developer and manufacturer of high-performance gyro-stabilized cameras with advanced real-time AR mapping and mission management, all backed by unparalleled custom training and support. Now offering the M2 multi-sensor system, sole 6-axis EO/IR platform with 4K Ultra HD color and infrared technology. Ideal for law enforcement and defense. Offered with real-time AR overlays to quickly identify streets, weather, and traffic. Automated license plate recognition, 24 megapixel digital photographs, and automated steering and tracking. Thanks to our sponsor, Dallas Avionics, who provides innovative products to law enforcement, the Department of Defense, Homeland Security, military, air medical, search and rescue, and special missions operations. Dallas Avionics distributes OEM equipment, including communications equipment, digital audio systems, PA systems, flight tracking, and other mission-critical devices. Visit DallasAvionics.com for more details. Thanks to our sponsor, Garmin. From flight displays with wire-aware power line alerting to autopilots with hover assist, Garmin Avionics solutions give helicopter pilots the safety of flight tools they need to fly with total confidence. Find out more at garmin.com/helicopters.
Thank you for listening to the Hangar Z podcast. The newly established El Dorado Sheriff's Office Aviation Unit is already making a positive impact for the safety of their deputies and the public. Establishing this unit was no easy task, but with the support of the sheriff and finding the right aircraft and crew members, they have done a fantastic job and are certainly making a difference. Congratulations again to Jesse, Joe, and Patrick on receiving this well-deserved recognition from all of us at Vertical Valor magazine. Please like, subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Those small requests make a big difference in helping the podcast grow. We truly appreciate your support. Stay safe, and we'll catch you the next time on the Hangar Z podcast.